Welcome to this episode of the On Deck channel. Really glad to have you guys watching. We are joined today in studio, and this is pretty cool because this is the first time that we've actually had an owner episode. That is that we have an owner here of one of the boats that has been a featured video that we've done some videos on. There's one released in the wild as of this recording. It's the Leopard 42, and this is Greg Hathorn and Stephen Lloyd of the Yacht Rigger. And man, yeah, glad you guys are here today.
Glad to be here.
Good to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I say today, it's actually nighttime, but you never know in the studio.
Right.
Because there's blackout curtains everywhere. So, you know, you just kind of lose a sense of time and scale in here.
Yeah,
But that's cool. Yeah, not bad. So you just obviously, per the episode, and check the description below or the link card above, and you can watch the videos that are out there on Greg's boat. But basically, you got this Leopard 42. Lots of things to talk about with regards to Leopard, the 42, why you did what you did, but starting all the way back at the beginning, what got you into sailing? How'd that whole sailing life start for you?
Well, started sailing back in 2010. Took a trip over to England and to visit family and friends, and went sailing on my buddy's boat on the Broads in England. And if you're not familiar with the Broads, they're basically like Salt Creek out here. They're just narrow channels, and that's where everyone sails. There's nothing broad about it. And he had a beautiful wood chine boat, just beautiful, Myrtle the Turtle. And so we went sailing on the Broads, first sailboat I'd ever been on.
So where is the Broads in England?
They just kind of meander through.
Okay, like inland waterways.
Inland waterways,
okay.
right?
Wow.
And a lot of people will charter these canal boats.
Yep.
Going up and down, and so we're sailing, and literally to sail 100 yards, we probably tacked 10 times, and you would, and every time my buddy would yell, "Come it about," and his wife would say, "Come it about," and they would tack. And then a few minutes later, "Come it about," and I finally
It's like
joked.
trial by fire.
I finally said, "You don't even need to say coming about. I get it. When the bow hits the tree limbs,
right,
you're coming about. Otherwise, you're running ashore."
Yeah.
And so we got off this boat, and my wife and I were talking, and we said, we don't get it." And so then we went to France to visit her cousin, who lived in Granville, France, which is on the English Channel or the French Channel, I guess.
Yeah,
whatever,
depends,
I'm not
right?
going there. But and he had I think a 26 Catalina, and so we took those out to some islands, and so we got on a nice one tack out to the island, and it was just spectacular,
Right.
and we got it.
Yeah.
And so I came home, and we were living in Huntsville, Alabama, up in North Alabama. The Tennessee River comes through there, and there's a series of lakes, Lake Gunnersville. So I went looking, and sure enough, there were a couple of sailboat clubs there. And so we bought our first sailboat. It was a 1989 Pearson 31. Beautiful boat. I had no idea really what I was buying at the time, and then I realized, wow, this Pearson's a hell of a boat.
Yeah, it is.
And so we just sold it right after purchasing the Leopard 42. But that's what we cut our teeth on, and took it all the way down the Tennessee. Tom Bigby one spring down to Pensacola through 13 locks, and left it in Pensacola one summer, and just treated it like a condo, and rafted up with 1,000 of our best friends to watch the Blue Angels show, and it was just great. And so we chartered a few times in the BVI and once in the Med.
Mono or cats?
Cats. The first was a Leopard 44 out of Tortola.
So it was all monos you were on in Europe, right? Around England and France?
No, those were cats that we chartered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No, before though, yeah. Like before chartering,
before they were
you'd only been on
monos.
monos.
Yeah.
They were
So
monos.
how did the cat happen?
Well, that's what we chartered in the BVI.
It just kind of worked out.
What was available and easy.
And my wife really liked the fact that we weren't heeling. Whereas, I loved it.
Sure.
I'd give an opportunity to wash the decks or wash the windows. That was great fun. Heeling way over. But she didn't care for that and was never going to buy into a cruising life where we would leave for a season and cruise if we were going to do it on a monohull. And I couldn't argue with that. The room and the comfort on a cat is so extraordinary. It was a no-brainer. So if she was in on a cat, if she liked it, I loved it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. Happy wife, happy life.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, do what it takes.
Yeah. So
It's like anything. There's trade-offs with all
yeah.
that stuff. So you got that cat. You chartered.
we chartered.
Recognized, man, this is the way.
Right. And then in 2017, went in with 2 sailing buddies from the Lake Guntersville Sailing Club in Guntersville, Alabama, and we purchased a 2014 Fontaine Peugeot Helia on St. Martin. And it was tricked out. It had 1,200 watts of solar and 1,000 watts AGM battery, but no monitoring. You had no clue how much power you're taking in or what you were using. So we were very.
You're just guessing.
We
You're
were
just blindly.
We were
Nice.
very ignorant.
Wow.
You know, we just took off. Let's go to St. Bart's. Let's go to Saba, and off we go. And we're just using up all the power. We had no freaking. Looking back on it, like wow, we were really stupid. Anyway,
Well, you
we
gotta
had
start somewhere, you know.
had it.
Nobody died.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
nobody
yeah.
died.
Yep.
We had it for one season, and hauled it out, put it on the hard in St. Martin, and here came Hurricane Irma. So we got demasted. Had no structural damage though. No water. No water incursions. We had structural damage. We lost the mast. We couldn't get down there until late January. Couldn't fly in, and we were hearing horror stories about the repair work going on and people being taken advantage of. So we just chopped off. Had about 22, 23 feet of mast. Climbed up, put a VHF antenna on it, and strapped it down with spare halyard lines, and we motored it all the way back to Fort Lauderdale to Just Cats, and had it repaired there, and I sold my interest out to my buddies, and we got out of it. But that was a nice boat, but I always had a soft spot for Leopards. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Helia is a nice boat for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done a lot of work on them, and I mean, it's a great layout. I mean, it makes a lot of sense in many ways.
Right. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
How did Leopard get on your radar?
I always really my wife and I really liked the forward cockpit, the forward door.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a
Going
distinction.
forward, because as the captain of the boat, and we've got 4 kids and 4 grandkids, guests that you want to invite on board that aren't boaters at all, family. Anytime you're out in big water, they just don't understand. Don't just walk forward without letting somebody know you walk forward. They don't understand, and that's my biggest fear. You know, you don't want to look around and go, well, where's Bob?
Right.
And you realize Bob's not on board.
Yep.
And you're in 6-foot seas.
Oof. Yep.
Well,
It's a
Bob's
big deal.
gone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Bob's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
So the Leopard allows you to go forward through the saloon, forward and never
No
go
navigating side decks. at
Never,
all.
never go around the side deck.
Yeah,
Never,
trying to
ever.
swing around the cap shrouds and
Right.
high
so
seas.
that's
and,
my first discussion when people are on board is never go around the side decks.
Sure.
nice
Always go
airflow
forward.
too, huh?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh.
It's just fantastic.
Like
yeah.
a section of your wall being removed for airflow.
Right,
That's pretty
right.
sweet.
Just opens the boat up so nicely. And then Leopard did what the Helia, what Fontaine Peugeot had done, and they put the, I call it a sky lounge up on top, which is a great place to sit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cockpit is not where you want to be. There's no wind back there.
Right.
Or not as much wind.
Sure.
So, and you certainly can't see. You're looking
Yep.
backward. That was the other thing. All these boats pretty much have been set up to look backward.
Mm-hmm.
The galley would be in the aft part of the saloon, and you're looking out the back of the boat if you're at the sink, and if you're sitting in the salon seating, you've got your back to the front of the boat, and you're looking at where you've been instead of where you're going. Leopard flipped that around, and now everything looks forward. And that, I looked at that and I thought, well, duh.
Yeah, I've never heard it put that way before, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
I
flipped
like
around.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that drew
description.
me to it as well. And the best view in the house is when you're doing dishes. I mean, how great is that?
Yeah.
You can
Right.
argue over who's doing dishes because you're just like forward,
That's
right
right.
out that
Yeah,
window,
great
right
view.
over the bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
So,
And and can you still option those, the 42s, without that fly lounge up there?
nope, they've done away with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they're all
Yeah.
coming out that
Yeah.
way.
But, they really didn't, and you would, as a rigger, you'd know that they really didn't raise that boom much to accommodate
Not as much
that.
as they have or other manufacturers have for
Yeah.
the fly lounge. I mean, for sure. I just spent 4 or 5 days on the Lagoon 450, and it's great. They have this awesome lounge and the fly bridge, but the boom is way up there. I mean, you have to be standing or climbing up into the boom to deal with any main issue.
I just, I'm 6'1", but I don't want to do that.
No. Yeah, when the bottom of the boom is 6 feet off the deck, and
Yeah.
you still have to. Yeah, it's really tough to deal with.
And you're in, it's fine if it's nice and calm and flat, but
Yep.
in any kind of seaway, which is normally the case, how are you dealing with flaking that sail if it doesn't come down
Right.
easily?
Yeah.
And so we were planning to get the 45. But when the 42 came out, we saw the new updates and rethinking of some things on the 42. And I stood at the boom, and the sail bag and the zipper was right here. I thought, oh, this is
eye level.
this is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the 42-foot boat is that much more manageable. It's crazy how big these 45s are getting.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of just everything, windage, overall volume.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. The draft is deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 42 has the same engines, the same Yanmar 45s
Yep.
as the Leopard 45.
Right.
So to me, that says more efficient.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, those 42s, they really hit their stride with
I
those
think so.
versus because the 40 to the 45, when the 40s were the current and the 42 didn't exist, it was a really big step up in money
Huge.
and size and everything else. When that 42 dropped, it just made sense.
Right.
I mean,
right.
that's really something.
So when we saw it, we went to Annapolis in October 21. So we were part of that pandemic crowd that kind of went to look. We're just going to look and eat and have a good time in Annapolis, and then we'll come home. And didn't work out. So
yeah, got your 42 there, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting.
No regrets.
So how long between then taking delivery of the 42 to starting your work on it?
From when?
So you got the 42 in possession. Right. So you got a hold of it. Would you pick it up in Fort Lauderdale?
Picked it up in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. Brought it over on the shipping container or captained over?
No, they don't captain them over.
They don't
I don't
anymore.
even think that's an option any longer.
Okay, it used to be. So it's on the shipping container. They assemble in Fort Lauderdale then.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
No, it comes over with the mast up.
Oh, the masts are up.
It's fully rigged on the ship.
Yeah.
Whoa,
It's
way.
literally I've seen pictures. Yeah, you'll see like 15 boats on the ship.
Oh yeah,
and it's a whole row, maybe 20.
Yeah, I've got a
photograph.
photograph.
ready to go.
Yeah,
of the
that's
I
ship.
remember you posting. Yeah,
Did
so
you
they
see-
all
yeah.
have their rigs up, and then they launch them mast up, and then I think in Lauderdale they do a little bit of kind of just commissioning basic stuff,
Yeah,
just to
they-
make sure the engines are still running fine, and check off kind of stuff.
Right.
But no major commissioning work.
So it's
is
ready
done.
to go.
It's done
That's
in
great.
Cape Town.
Yeah. So we picked it up and did a night sail from Fort Lauderdale to Key West.
Okay.
Spent 3 days in Key West goofing around. Ate more key lime pie dipped in chocolate on a stick than I cared to admit, and we actually loaded up about a dozen or so of them to actually bring up to St. Pete with us, and they didn't make it back to St. Pete. We ate them all. So then we did a night sail from Key West up to St. Pete, and then I don't know, real soon after that, brought the boat around here to you guys.
It was within probably a month and a half, maybe,
about
of
that.
receiving the boat. I think, it was relatively.
If that,
Yeah.
So how did you know what you wanted to have done to it?
A lot of research, a lot of watching video,
Yeah.
a lot of talking to people, talking to Steve, a lot of conversations with Steve.
I think we started speaking about a few months after you bought the boat, right? I mean, what
think
was it?
so.
We looked
While
back
you
at
were
emails.
waiting.
It was August, September or something
Yeah.
of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we first
I think
kind of
so.
touched base and
Right.
you started kind of saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking I want. And
Right.
Yeah.
Because another Leopard 42 owner had put me onto you guys.
Yeah.
Because what I was getting through other boatyards that I thought I was going to use were boilerplate, this is what we do, and it's good. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just wanted something different.
Sure.
And I wanted the opportunity for something different, whether or not I got it or not. I wanted the opportunity, and so that's what you guys offered, was the opportunity to do something different.
Yeah, it's got to be tough as a new boat owner or a buying a new boat in this market, just because of the crazy rapid advance of things, right? Like, we're seeing stuff now that, Andre and I started playing around 4 years ago with doing, can we run AC overnight? Can we actually run AC off of batteries? Whereas now that's kind of commonly accepted. Yes, everyone knows you can do that. Now it's reaching the point where, can we make it so that you can, like, back when we were first running AC, it was like, well, I'm setting it to like 80 degrees and the boat's comfortable but not cool.
Yeah, you're trying not to just be miserable.
I'm waking up at 35, 40% batteries. Whereas now we the technology is advancing so fast that we can actually cool a boat overnight that you're very comfortable. Your wife is completely happy with the level of humidity.
And
cool.
you say that, and so I'll just say, I'm the softie. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Call it a realist.
That's
Maybe
true.
I'm just a realist, or practical. Going camping for a weekend. Okay, fine. Give me all you got.
Sure.
Give me the
Suck it
bugs.
up.
Give
2
me
days.
everything. Right.
Yep.
That's the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But going camping for 6 months, that's not for me.
No.
And
I agree.
my wife is like, we really don't need all that air conditioning. I'm always cold all the time because you keep your air so cold in the house. And so I said, no, we've got to have it. We've got to have it. Because if we're going to really enjoy this and not just wear ourselves out,
Sure.
in one season and then say, that's it.
Yeah.
We're not doing that again.
Yeah.
You got to have those creature comforts.
Yep.
You can't go camping for 6 months. I'm not an extreme sports kind of guy. That's just not me.
And to be fair, I'm kind of the same. I'm more of the, we just went up to Dunedin this past weekend, and it was kind of cold out, and some friends of ours were actually camping on this little shoal island.
You sailed up there in
near.
the boat you live in.
Yeah.
Right? Your family
So we
boat.
sail up there, and I'm the one that, we went and had a bonfire on the island. It was great. We're coming back to the boat, and I'm like, I'm really looking forward to a hot shower right now. And Bree, my wife, is kind of like, yeah, she's like, sure, that'd be nice. I'm like, no, I really want, I'm going to have a hot shower. And so I get back, I fire up the engine, we're pushing, charging the bank up. It's at 95%. We have 2 tanks of hot water.
Yeah.
We can take a long hot shower. And I'm the one who's actually probably enjoying it more than anyone else.
That's funny. We're all the softies.
I like to, yeah. I think she would have been fine just to be like, I'll just, do a quick wash down. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And, because we were really kind of budgeting for a Leopard 45 when the 42 came along, my mind, the way I think was, well, I had mentally already spent the money. So if I'm getting the 42 and in my mind getting a better boat for us, I got extra money. And so, I'm like Captain Kirk. It's like, hey, Steve, I need more power. Right? And you're like, I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. We got no more room for batteries.
Yeah. I mean, as reference, if anyone watching this has seen, we just released the Leopard 50 series that talked about this crazy powerful Leopard 50, and then we went and put the same amount of batteries in the 42, and almost the same amount of solar.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
within
crazy.
500 or 600 watts of the same amount of solar on the 42.
Right.
So
so crazy.
He's got me beat on the AC BTUs, though. But
barely,
he's got way more volume.
His volume's cool. I bet you per cubic footage you haven't beat.
Maybe so.
I would say actually almost hands down
that'd be
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because you're at 48,000 BTUs, right?
48,000,
And he's at
yeah.
60.
Okay, 60?
Yeah. And so he is, I would
what
say
is he, like
probably
60%
30,
more
40% more volume.
Oh, that. I would think
maybe more,
42
actually.
to
The 50 is
50,
massive.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That boat is huge.
So,
Those
I mean, I
numbers
think
really
your
blow up volume.
your BTU numbers are going to be pretty good. His system is a little different, and he's got the single chiller. But, I mean, you have 3 standalone units that can work independently. No, I mean, you have what was the title of the video? The 42 was like,
Oh,
do you
yeah.
need this much power?
Do you even need this much power?
Like, what a stupid
The answer,
question.
exactly.
But the reality is, Greg,
That's exactly right.
I think what you have now, people will look back on a year or two from now and be like, oh yeah, like that's what we can and should be doing.
Right.
Like there's no reason not to, right? You're just a few months ahead of the game, and in this market, we see it all the time. I mean, if we look back now, 3 years ago, what we were struggling to do 3 years ago, that is more than acceptable to do now.
And we're in the restaurant business now, but I spent 25 years in the computer business selling mainframe computers. I don't even know if they have that terminology. It's the big iron, the big iron,
Wow.
the big stuff.
Yep.
And everybody wanted to just get what they, just get enough to what they needed for an average day.
Right.
And I'd have to walk them through when's your biggest time of the year.
Sure.
And so, if I were talking to a university, they'd say, well, we set up 50 terminals in the gymnasium during registration when we're registering students. I said, okay, you have to configure it for that, your computer for that. Do you want 2-second response time, or do you want 45-second response time in long lines?
Right.
And so to me, you have to do the same thing in anything. You have to have that scale.
Right.
I don't want to be waking up at 4 a.m. wondering, did the battery alarm go off? Did I miss it? Maybe I better get up and check the bank. And oh my God, we're at 9%. Turn it all off. Take your phone off. Turn it off.
Yep.
And then you're up. That's it. So I wanted to have basically double what we needed on average.
50% redundancy ratio.
To accommodate being on anchor somewhere with no wind, no SEAMs, everything locked down, no sun, and be able to still be comfortable.
Right.
Can you run 2 ACs on the battery?
You can run all 3.
Can you really? On 2200 amp hour?
So
at 12 volts?
this one trip we took after I picked the boat up, all we did is go around the tip of St. Pete and went up to the municipal marina downtown St. Pete. And I didn't even bother hooking up to shore power. We had just for fun. I mean, the weather was only around 77, so we didn't need it. But I had all 3 AC units on all day, set to 70, just because, and then set them at 73 at night, and let them all run. And woke up in the morning, and we were at, what did I tell you, 51%?
It was
like 51% left on the battery bank.
16,000 BTU.
That's the dream.
And and I asked my daughters who were in the porthole and with my grandson, and I said, were y'all comfortable last night? Did it get hot? And they said, we were freezing.
Yeah, it's a meat locker.
We were freezing. These blankets, you need more blankets.
And it's not, this is
cool
a particularly bad time of year for solar. I mean, the sun is low in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
We have some English weather right now.
It really is. And it's interesting what you say about, optimizing for the peak need, right? Because right now, I mean, obviously, it's November, and it's not particularly hot out, and it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how much you can squeeze out of the system when it's August. And it's 94 overnight, and you set that thing to 70, and see how many units we can run on your boat overnight.
Right.
And my guess is that we'll be able to run 2 of them at probably 75 overnight. It's going to be interesting to figure out.
It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. But it might be better than we think, because 3 working together are more efficient than 2.
And I'll tell you, these Frigamore, is that how you pronounce it? Frigamore? Yeah, these inverter, variable speed compressors and fans, I mean, they do what they say they do.
Yeah.
Their max is 1,000 watts. So when you have a big temperature differential, it's
working hard.
Yeah, working hard. It's 75 in the boat, and you say, "Hey, I'd like it to be 65." Here they come.
Full power.
Full power. And so all 3 are running, and I'm using 3,000 watts plus whatever the refrigerators are using, freezer, which is only like 300 watts.
Which is insane when you think about I had the Cruise Air, I think, units on my boat before. Yeah. They would pull 1,850 watts for 1 unit.
Whoa!
Just consistent.
Wow.
Like, it didn't ever taper off. It's either on or off. And
that's what
and
the
when it
variable
goes
speed
off,
does.
then
It's just pushing.
It's like driving a car from this shoulder to this shoulder and never getting steady down the road
Yes.
because it drops.
Right.
Exactly.
And then it has to come on full blast again to
Yep.
catch back up, and so the temperature in the
Yep,
boat's
and it's
doing
loud.
this and that.
You hear it kick on
Yeah,
every time.
or it's like only be able to go 100% throttle on your
And
your
these
car.
things are
Yeah.
quiet.
No in between.
When they first come on, they do all kind of sensor taking to figure out the environment
Yep.
to determine when they first come on, do I only need to change the temperature by 2 degrees so the fan barely runs, the compressor barely runs, and they're pulling about 300 watts
Yep.
is it. It's incredible, and
It's
they're quiet.
Amazing.
They're
And you think
really
about how,
quiet.
how far it's
Yeah.
come in a short number of years.
Yeah.
It's really, really
Yeah.
crazy.
That's neat.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that there were things that you were specifically looking for that were important to you that you wanted to get a little maybe more custom designed or not quite so boilerplate, what were some of those design considerations that you had?
Well, the solar, I thought with a 23-foot beam boat, when I did the math and kind of drew this thing out on paper, I wanted to get 5 solar panels on the back. I thought, well, 5 will fit. That's another 400 watts on the back. And all I'd seen so far is 4 panels. There are a few that had done 5. So that was one thing that I talked to Steve about. Hey, I'd really like to get 5 panels. He sent me a photograph of, I think, a lagoon that has 6 panels. And I said, yeah, we got 6 panels on this one.
I sent you a picture of it was a lagoon with 7, and it was.
Oh my gosh!
This is not our design.
It's like wings.
We didn't install for someone
Yeah.
who, or actually the owner installed it. We built a frame as per someone's design, and
Yeah.
it was. I remember saying, "Hey, don't judge me based on this design."
I know, right?
Because I mean, it fit, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I do that one again. Yeah.
So that was one, 5 on the back. I really wanted, the space on the Leopard 42 for the house batteries is just a little hole in the floor just inside the saloon door.
Yeah,
a
that'll be in the
sliding door.
second episode of your 42 when that drops.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Because I
We
do
actually
have the
opened
footage
that up.
of that. Yeah, we opened it up
Okay.
and look
The
in.
Yeah.
original.
And that was my
Yeah.
first time to see where that actual
So only
compartment is.
3
Yep.
lithiums will fit there, so about 900 amp hours. And I thought, doggone. So I kept researching batteries, trying to find batteries that are narrower and that would fit, and found some, I don't know, Dakota batteries or something that 4 would fit. But, I really wanted a full Victron system.
Sure.
Because there just makes a lot of sense to have your battery management system and the servo and the touchscreen, everything talking together. And
Sure.
again, that comes from my computer background. Have everything be common.
Sure.
Unless you have some type of ANSI standard or something that everyone's abiding by, which isn't necessarily the case. And so I wanted everything to be Victron. And that's when Steve said, well, you've got this big area under the saloon. If you want to, give up some of your snacks and places for all your extra beer and stuff, we can cram it full of batteries. I said,
And keep the weight in the middle of the boat.
and keep the weight in the middle of the boat.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing.
It also helped a
Yeah.
lot that Victron came out with that 200 amp hour 24 volt battery fairly recently. That wasn't when we first started talking. That battery was, I think, barely in existence, and it became readily available within a few months. That changed
things
everything.
change so fast.
It really does.
I've got so many notes that I've taken over the years that just by the time I wrote it down, it was.
Yeah.
It was old information.
Yep.
And I was looking at 12 volt, and that's when you said, you might want to
yes.
consider going with 24 volt.
Yeah.
You get more bang for the buck, and I'm glad it did.
Especially with the 42, because the space for inverters is the one somewhat limiting factor, right? So if we had decided to stick with 12 volt, we would have been inverting up for variable speed air conditioners that were in the AC voltage line, but then you're limited by the number of inverters you can keep on the boat.
Right.
How much inversion power
Just
you
by
have.
space.
Just by
Right.
physical space. And there's
Yeah.
other ways, there's always place to shove another inverter, but then it comes down to efficiency, like how far you really want to run cables and how much storage space you want to give up.
Yeah.
Right, and if you don't need to invert, don't invert.
Exactly.
And so, I wasn't interested in what we'd be able to do at shore power. The idea of having a boat is to not be at the dock.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to build a boat, a system that optimized being out, being on the hook.
Yeah.
And so to be able to run the AC directly off the 24-volt bank and not invert leaves the 5,000 watt inverter to do other things.
Nice.
Like the 1,800 watt induction cooktop.
Yes.
Or the 1,300 watt Panasonic 4-in-1 oven that does air fry and broil and convection and microwave.
You can run both of those at once.
You can run them both at once, and that's 2,600 watts. The coffee maker.
Hot water.
Hot water. Yeah. You guys actually rigged it to where I can make hot water
it's a nice
off
feature.
the battery bank.
It's a nice feature.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
So, are you going to do that all the time? No. But if you need to,
if you want to, you can.
Oh, you can run the hot water off the battery bank?
Yep.
The heater?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's how I was
It probably
taking,
got said, but it just went
you
over
hear
my
this
head.
loud sucking sound, though, man.
Yeah.
The batteries, they're kind of going.
Oh, that's crazy.
I can suck 10%,
But it'll do it.
10% out of my 1,200 amp hour bank in about 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
By just firing that thing up. Yeah.
That's wild.
But it's awesome.
A hot shower is worth 10%. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Isn't
For
that
me,
funny?
it's,
And it's a blast to use that Victron. What is that thing? Just a touch screen?
The servo,
it's
yeah.
Just the servo touch or
it's
whatever?
The servo screen. Yeah.
Man, it's just great. So I've got nothing on. I go, okay, what's the induction cooktop use? And so I turn it on and watch the AC side go up. Okay, make a note. That's how much that's how I know how much all these
start to make a
use
power
because I
budget.
just make a power budget.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And
for
it
that.
just shows you it's amazing how well they distilled so
Yes.
much complicated information
I can
into
ask my
one
10-year-old.
screen.
I say to my 10-year-old, I go, hey, how much are we pulling right now? How much is coming out of the bank? And
Yeah.
he, within 10 seconds, he runs downstairs. He goes, all right, we're pulling 40 amps right now.
It's
okay,
great.
Cool.
The bad side of it is you can't take your eyes off of it. It's so
Yeah.
fun to watch.
I used to let mine sleep. Would stay. The screen would stay on for
Yeah.
5 minutes or so. It's permanently on now. I look at that thing.
Yeah, that's what I told Frank, our project manager.
Yep.
I said, can you set it to be on all the time?
Yeah. It's worth the couple milliamps draw for the LED screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be able to glance over and see it.
Right.
That's
Right.
pretty sweet.
Right.
So to make your AC be able to have the DC direct connection to the battery bank, bypassing the inverter, is that why you needed the 24-volt batteries? Would the 12 have not worked? I know we might.
Correct.
I'm trying not to get into
For
too
these
into
air
the woods.
conditioning units.
Well, for those particular, there are 12-volt DC air conditioning units,
Okay.
but they're not as efficient or powerful as those 24-volt Frigamars.
Okay, so if you really wanted those better, more efficient air conditioners, you needed to get that battery bank up to 24 volt.
Yes.
And that's
So,
what
well, there's
Victron-
several advantages to 24 volt. So one is that you can run
Okay.
the fairly powerful air conditioning units, and then the other one is your charging ability. So, well, there's actually several, but so one is the fact that you can run more efficient alternators to charge the bank. So there's a higher wattage that you can push into the batteries using a 24 volt as opposed to 12 volts.
Okay.
And then the other advantage is anything you are inverting is more efficient. Inverting from 24 volts up to 120 is much more efficient than inverting from 12 volts up to 120.
Okay.
So there's
That's cool.
there's several efficiency advantages and gains.
Having slightly higher voltage, isn't it a little bit better for your electronic equipment that's running on that is a little less sensitive to voltage drop? 'Cause
Correct.
You have
Well,
more headroom.
So the other advantage is you use smaller cables throughout.
Yeah,
Everything
that's
your
huge.
cable sizes
That's
halved.
yeah, that's sweet.
But then, yes, for instance, we converted all Greg's refrigeration over to 24 volts. So refrigeration, freezers, all those compressors love higher voltage.
And
So,
I don't really
yeah,
understand
that's
that. I just took his word for it and said, okay,
Right.
well, they're going to run more
Yeah.
efficiently.
And I don't
Okay.
really understand it either. I just took
Yeah.
Andre's
Just
word
know
for
that
it.
that's
So,
what-
But it made sense because now they're running off this 1,200 amp hour, which is at 24 volt, that's 28,800 watts on the boat,
yeah,
right?
it's
1,200
2,400
amp
amp hours at 12 volts.
At
and-
24.
No, 24.
That's 1,200
Yes,
at
24
24.
at 12. Sorry.
Which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
28,800 watts.
Is that what it is? I would
Yeah,
take your word for it
yeah,
because I haven't run
yeah,
that number.
yeah.
Yeah. If Andre was here, he would spit out some
Yeah,
calculation. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
And is that like a watt volt or a true watt? There's all kinds of complicated. I just learned
man.
that, by the way.
Electricity.
Hey, it's a little side note. 5,000 watt inverter is actually 5,000 watt volts or volt watts or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Andre threw that at me recently. I'm like, oh,
God.
great, thanks, Andre. Yeah, that's helpful.
Just
But
what
so
I needed.
It,
Yeah,
what it
another
actually,
variable.
like in actual watts, it's slightly lower. So a 5,000 watt inverter is actually truly good for like 4,800 watts. Not quite 5,000. Because the ratings don't quite allow for heat loss and
Yeah. It's like due to
it
science.
went over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
40.
Right.
Yeah, I thought I understood it. Again, there's just layers to this stuff that
Crazy.
Someone like Andre has a really good understanding. Andre and
He's
Frank
just a
too
mind for
understands
it.
a
It's
lot.
crazy.
But
Yeah.
it-
The other thing about changing those to 24 volt is that they would have been 12 volt, and so we kept the two. What are they? 400 or 440 amp
the original
hour,
house
The
batteries.
original house batteries. Two of those remain in the boat, and so they're 12 volt, and that's it. And so all of the refrigerators and freezers would have continued to run off of
They
those.
could have, no problem.
And they could have,
Yeah.
but it's nicer to be running those off the big bank.
Yeah, you gain that efficiency.
Right. And so now the 12 volt batteries are only running, the little fans in the boat, DC fans, and the instruments.
Sweet.
Yeah, some
And-
lights.
and some
Celestial
lights,
Yep.
Yeah. But no big
We
ticket
call that
items.
the buffer bank. So like in our designs, we always call that 12 volt bank. This is a buffer bank. It's going to run your latent stuff that is too complicated, or not even complicated. Just it's not worth converting.
Yeah, it's
it
just a
up to
small
24
draw
volts.
anyways.
Yeah.
But it's additional amp hours. Those are actual usable amp hours. When they're charged
yeah.
up, they're charged by the solar. They're charged via the main bank, but they're still charged by the solar. And let's say 3 years from now, 4 years from now, those AGMs are tired and dead. There's the option to throw in some 12 volt lithium batteries
Right.
in there, and it'll take some weight out the boat, but also add some lithium storage, so that again doubles your power density. But
Right.
it's not worth doing right now because you have brand new AGM
Sure.
batteries in there, and they're fine.
Sure.
They're going to stay healthy
Right.
for a long time because of the way the DC to DC charging is set up on the boat. But yeah, it's also additional insurance. If he has a BMS shutdown and lightning strike or whatever, just some kind of power
Just
surge,
something.
anything,
Yeah.
a failure in that system, he will still have his navigation equipment and interior lights,
Right.
navigational
really cool.
lights, all
That's
that
great.
stuff.
What a
So
safety feature.
a lot of people are freaked out by the whole, like, hey, lithium can do, and technically it can. It's incredibly rare. But if it does happen, you're in the dark. If it's 2 a.m. and you're navigating, you literally could have a complete shutdown. But in Greg's case, it's simply not the case because he has that original bank right there that is completely, I don't want to say completely isolated because it's connected with DC charging, but it's an independent power source.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. The 12 volt bank is charged from the 24 volt bank with Victron Orions. 24 to 12 volt
it's a
charge.
DC to DC or B2B charger is what we call
So
it.
the 24 volt bank is charged by the sun, through the solar, through the generator, which, if I had to do it, if I knew what I was going to end up with,
Sure.
I would have never bought the generator.
Oh, you have
Never.
a generator. I didn't even know
I have a
there was.
generator,
Oh,
and
you got
I
it.
honestly,
Lights.
I don't know when I'll run it. Because with the sun, and now we're adding the 185 amp hour, amp, high output alternators with the Zeus regulators, smart regulators. We're going to be throwing in somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,400 watts total between the two engines through the
power
alternators,
plant.
plus about 3,300 max from the solar. When am I going to run that generator?
Yeah.
So,
find
if there's a
yourself-
buyer out there, if
Yeah,
there's
right.
someone that would like,
Yeah, we need
PSA, if you
Right.
are.
Yeah.
right, I've got one,
awesome.
6K, it's
Low
got
hours.
20 hours on it.
Yeah, really low hours. Like new.
I'll throw in some free oil. I'll tie it to your car.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I just experienced it again this weekend with, I had to motor sail a little bit, especially up the channel when I got up into Dunedin. I had to come up the waterway a little while. And I was dropping anchor at, 7 p.m. It's dark out. But I dropped the hook, and Bree had been cooking using the induction cooktop and the Breville air fryer, making some sweet potato fries. And we dropped the hook and turned everything off, and I was at 95% batteries. After a really cloudy day, and we motored for an hour and a half. And we got hot water, everything's done. We're set.
It really cuts down on the anxiety when you don't have to keep that in your frontal lobe all the time. What's my power management?
Yeah.
And, then we put in the 24 volt Seawater Pro water maker, which does 40 gallons a minute. It's
an hour.
Oh, not a minute, an hour.
I want that one. If
Every
they come out with that
60
unit.
minutes, right?
Yeah.
So
9,000
yeah, we'll take that
gallons
one.
an
hour.
Yeah.
But still, 40 gallons an hour.
Yeah,
is,
40 gallons an hour.
yeah.
It's
From
not a high-tech
from
one.
DC.
There really are
Yeah,
no
too.
electronics. It's just it just does its job. You turn it on. It
Sweet.
makes a lot of noise, but it will make a lot of water in a hurry, and it's at 24 volts, and that's all I wanted. I didn't want a water maker to run forever and, do all this fancy stuff. I just wanted to fire it up and make the water and shut it off. And,
Yeah, I'm of the same mind.
And
Keep
it
it
uses
simple on the
about
water maker.
close to 1,000 watts, 900
It's like
and something
950.
watts.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right, but you're going to make
But with-
40 gallons. I mean,
That's less than a third of your solar output.
yeah.
Yeah.
And 40 gallons, what is it, 160 gallons of water on the boat, something like that.
Yep.
So, that's a third.
The way I
3
do
hours,
mine,
I
I
can
have
fill
the
my tanks.
same water maker, and typically when we go out for like a 4 or 5 day, just a short cruise, I just run it every day for about 40 minutes. And
Yeah.
we're
Just
taking
just a routine.
I didn't tell people. I don't mention water restrictions. People take showers, and there's at 40 making 35 to 40 gallons a day. You don't need to tell people to watch out. I mean, it's really not an
That
issue.
changes the game,
I
huh?
kind of like that it makes a sound too, because I get I won't forget it's running.
That's
first
true.
of all,
That's true.
and
Yeah.
I like knowing that it's operating, and it
Yeah.
reminds me, okay, cool. Okay, I'm sick of listening to it now. It's been 45 minutes.
But it gives
Shut
me
thing
the
off.
option
Yeah.
that if I have somebody on board, like a relative
Mm-hmm.
from my other side of the family or something, that's on board, like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Fire it up. Yeah, it's because you
Yeah, they'll
took
be
such
getting
a
off the
long
boat
shower.
in a hurry. We'll drop you off at the next port.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely loud. But the only ones I found, honestly, that were quiet enough that you don't know they're running are only making 9 to 12 gallons an hour.
Yeah.
So you're running them for 4 times
Right.
the time. It's just
And-
not
Right.
yeah.
So, and when are you going to run that? If you're in some kind of seaway or something, I don't want that running.
Yeah.
I don't want to run the risk of sucking air up into
Yep.
that
And
thing.
you reach your anchorage, and do you want to be stuck on the boat then while it's making water for 4
Yeah,
hours?
right.
In my mind, I'm like, no,
Yeah, I
quick and
didn't-
dirty, run it, be done.
Yeah.
That's
So,
sweet.
Yeah.
now, speaking of water, so Frank, our project manager, fantastic. I mean, boy, talk about attention to detail. He is very detailed.
You hearing this, Frank?
I would sometimes after conversations, it's like, oh, I need some quiet time.
Yeah.
I'm
Frank
kidding,
is
Frank.
a
That's
details
the
guy.
engineered
Yeah.
But
mind,
so he was all about this water and power because we put the shower, the stainless shower off of the radar arch right there on the sugar scoop to take showers, and I came and looked at it. He put a rain head on there. I'm not kidding you, this big.
Oh, yeah.
Had like 140
Little jets.
little jets.
Uh-huh.
This big.
Yeah, that was in the video, yeah.
And I went, God, man, you're going to suck the bottom out of my water tank on a 3-minute shower. He goes, yeah, I really liked it. It was really pretty, but the pressure is so low because it's trying to put out so much, and just with the least little breeze, it just blows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're in the trades, it's
Yeah.
going to be hard. Yeah.
It's barely coming out. And
Did
you
you
go,
change that yet?
and it
Did you
just
put
blows. I'm
a
gonna
more
just go
efficient?
pick
Yeah.
one up at Lowe's or Home
Yeah.
Depot and stick it up there.
Yeah.
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 It did look pretty, though.
Oh, it looks
definitely
great.
pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, something a little more directional. When you think about Leopard as a boat, aside from your upgrades, what's something about the boat that is just like you mentioned the forward door. Is there any other feature that's like a standout thing that you really enjoy?
Well, the Sky Lounge up top is very nice, and to me that's the perfect compromise because I personally, it's a personal preference. So I don't want to offend anybody. It's just a personal preference. I wouldn't want a full flybridge boat where the helm is up top. I don't want to walk up and down the stairs all the time to get to the helm, and I don't want that mast way up there, the boom up that high with the sail bag. So the way that Leopard slipped that in under, really, I think is just a perfect balance, and still, the boat still is a sailboat. It's not the fastest boat. It's not an HH. It's not a Kinetic or anything. It's not a Outremer. But it's a comfortable, fun boat. We filed a number of warranty claims. Not many, but we filed several, and they've been 100% responsive.
Yeah.
And
That's cool to hear.
we had to de-step the mast
Yep.
for some, few minor things. They were minor, but it required de-stepping the mast, and they ponied up.
Relatively quickly too. I mean, it's never it's not a big hassle.
Yeah. So
I'll say as a side note, as someone who has to crawl around the guts of these boats a lot more than your typical owner would, Leopard, I feel like, sets themselves apart in terms of the quality of the laminations of the bulkheads, the internal bulkheads. Everything is glassed and tabbed in differently than other major manufacturers. I mean, everyone knows, there's issues out there with certain brands, but the other brands will use this kind of like glue stuff that they just almost like caulk in and glue them in place, whereas Leopard is actually fiberglassed in. And it gives you, one, it looks really strong, and two, you instantly know if something is wrong because that will tear. And so as someone who works on boats a lot, and I also own a Leopard, I love that I can look around the bilges and see, hey, there's actual fiberglass in here that has been laid up, and it's not necessarily unusual in the catamaran world, but in the mass-produced catamarans,
for like
it's
the big
not
3 or 4.
common. Yeah.
Also, and they're still doing that? That's still current?
Yeah.
Oh, you're on the new ones like his.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can crawl around the bilges. I mean, there's one that's fiberglass, but then they gel coat over it too, which is or paint it. It's nicely finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also that H frame. Steel.
It's a stainless steel giant. We call it's like a giant I-beam that goes across the whole hull. Yeah. That is also unique to Leopard.
Yeah, you pointed that out in the 50. I didn't even know that was a Leopard thing. Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, and all that adds weight.
Sure.
But
but
you're not a race boat.
Yeah, not a race boat, and it's all the doors shut, all the drawers shut, everything shuts correctly.
Yeah.
I just like the way they look too.
That's cool.
I just have a soft spot for the Leopards. I can't always explain it.
Sure.
But I just like the way they look. I like the culture of the company, and I like their feature set. I think it's just a really nice comfort
what
feature set.
What is the draft on the 42?
4.7. 4 foot 7.
So it's really not a whole. So I have a 43, and mine's like 4.6. I mean, I think the original factory spec was like 4.2, but that goes out the window almost instantly.
And if I think I'm right on this, the 42 is the first boat or sailboat. I don't know about their power line. That's foam cord. There's no balsa in it at all. It's all.
It's the first one.
100% foam cord.
So all foam above and below the water line.
Yeah, and they moved the water tank from forward, and they split it so it's midship.
Sure.
In each hull. So so that adds to the balance.
Sure.
Which I thought was really smart.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like conscious decisions are being made.
And they moved the instrument panel down like the 50. They moved it down.
Yeah, you're like
in the companionway going down into the starboard hull, and so that freed up that space.
Right.
Just in the saloon where you put a nice 30-inch television.
Right.
And because we put in the 4-in-1 combo oven in place of the gas oven, we use that spot where the microwave was designed to go. It's our coffee bar. So we've got tea and coffee and everything in that little spot just below the television.
Right, sweet.
It works out really well.
Yeah. And you can see what's happening over at your nav station as far as electronics and all that, which keeps it separate. Yeah, that's a cool setup. Okay. Yeah. So of all the aftermarket stuff that you've added to it now, what's your favorite standout feature? Something you enjoy?
Oh man, I love it all. I love it all. I mean, I do love the battery bank. I'm really tired of taking the cushion off and taking to show everybody my batteries. I got to show you the batteries. Hang on a minute. And, my wife's like, don't do that.
Beautiful cover plate.
Yeah. Like, no, look, they made this cover plate. They put all these fiddles on here. Look at this. It's amazing.
You need like a plexiglass, like a computer case,
right?
Where like your heels go. Do like a cutout and light it up like
that's
a
what I
computer,
should do. Put some LED lights on it. Yeah. I mean, y'all must have the biggest shoehorn ever made to get
those
got all
batteries
that stuff in there.
Oh yeah, man.
That is great.
Frank, lots of credit to Frank on that one.
Yeah,
I need to film that on the next 42.
Yes, just getting him in there
because that had to be. I'm like, there's more batteries under there. Wow.
Yeah, because people often look and they're like, oh yeah, so that's like 5 batteries.
I look at that space and I look at what Frank and Mike did with the cabling and how beautiful it is. I mean, and how surgical it is.
Yeah.
And I look at those tight spaces and I go, how did they get themselves into they must be Ant-Men. They shrink themselves.
Mike is a master of cable management for sure, no question.
I've ran cables
to Mike
with him.
on there.
My God.
He knows
that's
what's
his world. Yeah, I think he dreams about it at night. It's
He did steal
Cable
my
whisper.
my Victron Multiplus 3,000 watt inverter from me.
Oh, he did?
He ought to
Oh,
be ashamed of
All right,
himself
Mike.
for taking me to the woodshed on that thing.
I haven't asked you this yet, or we haven't even talked about it. Your longer term plans on the boat. I mean, are you planning on doing Bahamas, Caribbean with this boat, or are you still kind of taking it month by month
I'm
at
just
this point?
gonna
Enjoy it where it is.
Listen to Jimmy Buffett and smoke cigars and
Yep.
and drink margaritas, just sitting right there at the dock. That's enough. I mean, what else do you need? No,
Right.
our plan is so we've got 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and our youngest daughter is finishing her senior year of high school now. So when she's off to college, then we're gonna take off, and we'll do the Bahamas first.
Sure.
We did some of the Caribbean when we had the Helia.
Yep.
But we've never done the Bahamas.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So we'll do the Bahamas.
You have to talk
and-
to Frank about that. He has done a lot of the Bahamas.
Has he? Okay.
Yes,
He
in his
mentioned
boat.
that. He had done some extensive
lot.
cruising there. So
Yeah.
I'll have to pick his brain.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. And then you just have a long list of family and friends that you're
Mm-hmm.
just excited to invite and come on board and stuff. And then you have to consider, well, what are they up for?
Sure.
Are they up for a trip like that, or do they just want to, go around the tip of St. Pete and go spend the night at the transient slip in St. Pete and go have dinner
and that
then
might
come
be an
right back?
amazing adventure for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, you kind of have to
Exactly.
know your
Yeah,
audience.
I was
for
saying
that
to
stuff.
my kids this weekend, we just kind of casually after Thanksgiving, just took a 7-hour sail to another city and anchored off a little island for a couple nights and then sailed back. And I said to them, I said, guys, that what we just did might actually be too much for some people for their first time experiencing a boat, right?
Right.
Like
Sure.
it's definitely we all build up tolerance the more we
That's
boat,
right.
and
That's right.
for any one of us sitting here, it's nothing like
Right.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
But
my daughter.
That's a good point.
My oldest daughter had never been on. Our youngest daughter was with us when we had the Helia, but my oldest daughter had never been on a boat like this. And when she got off the boat and was walking around, she closed her eyes. She said, "Oh,
She was
I'm
landsick.
still on the boat."
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
"Welcome to boating."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I always like to ask people, especially because this has been a long road for you, right? I mean, going from you've had the Helia, but then you started this Leopard conversation in 2021, and now we're in late
Basically
2023.
24.
Believe it or
Yeah, a
not,
month
it's
away.
insane.
Crazy.
So looking back, Greg, from 2 years ago, when you were committing to this contract on the Leopard, or looking back through the process of what you've done, is there anything, one, that you would want to tell Greg from then, as in terms of advice, or anything you would really do differently in terms of the process and the way you've done it, or things you would have skipped over and not had to deal with?
Don't get the generator.
Okay.
Hey,
Yep. Sure.
Don't get. But hindsight. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
these Zeus.
But it helps other
these
people.
smart
Yeah.
Zeus alternators.
Yeah,
were
the
gonna
alternate
come out,
technology is. Yeah.
And I was never going to step up for the
Integral.
I
Yep.
wasn't going to do
Sure.
that.
What's that step up? The integral? What is that?
Yeah, because of the
What is
cost
it?
wise.
It's a very powerful alternator system that mounts to the engine.
Oh,
It's
I
also
remember-
very
okay,
expensive.
I remember it now.
So it's
yeah,
it's
a whole other thing.
considerably
Yeah, I get it.
multiple
It's a cut
times
above,
more expensive.
But I've got
yeah.
28,800 watts.
It's a lot more than a generator. I mean,
yeah.
an
You're
internal
already
system.
more
Yeah.
than
And
a generator.
and
Yeah.
So I've got just
Yeah.
under 30,000 watts of lithium.
Yep.
And these Zeus regulators and alternators at a fraction of the cost of, I mean, they're still expensive, but a
Sure.
fraction of the cost of the
Integral.
integral.
Yep.
If I can put 8,500 watts in per hour
Yeah.
motoring,
Yep.
well, geez.
Well, alongside
I
solar.
can fill the bank up. Alongside solar,
Yeah.
I couldn't see where the cost.
It's a very good system. It's just pricey, and
Yeah.
you're not the first person I've
Yeah.
spoken to that
Yeah.
gets caught up on. I mean,
like I
it's
built
hard
a-
to justify.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you get diminishing returns at a certain point.
That's
right?
what I'm looking for. Diminishing returns. Yeah.
Because I looked at in the world of projectors, and you could spend $5,000 on this one Sony projector, or there's this other version for 20,000, and I mean the difference becomes you get so much less back per dollar spent more after a certain threshold.
Right.
That unless money's just no object, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You just
Right.
you try to find that sweet spot.
Right.
Yeah, and I know
But-
Zeus is.
So
good.
talking to someone who's like in the market right now, and there's hundreds of them out there, right? Like someone's in the market,
yeah.
they're like, hey, I want to buy a new boat, I want
Right.
to do this.
Right.
what would you, I mean, your firsthand experience, right? Like we get to experience this a lot as contractors, more on a secondhand basis. Like I didn't get to go through the emotional, purchase and then making decisions. What would your suggestions or guidance be to someone who's about to go through what you started going through 2.5, 3 years ago?
Know your numbers. Know what kind of cruising you plan to do.
Mm-hmm.
Know how thick of a skin you have, and whoever it is that you're going to be cruising with has in terms of the creature comforts. Do you want to go camping for 6 months, or do you want to really be a liveaboard and have all the creature comforts of home? And if that's the answer, and I think either direction, either way you go,
Sure.
when you size something, don't size it to where you're bumping your head every day.
So
Every
no
day,
bare
bumping
minimums.
your head.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever you come up with, add 50%, add 100%, double it, so that you're not constantly going through the angst of wondering about power.
Sure.
Because that's where it's at.
Right.
These are not rowboats.
Yeah.
These things are power hungry, and so you just got to do it. And and the rationale for me doing it was, well, we were looking to get a Leopard 45, and we got
Sure.
a 42, and so
Yeah.
hey, like my uncle says, I've never seen a Brinks truck following a hearse. So you
Yeah,
ain't taking
that's right.
it with you. And I had one shot at this, and
Sure.
I took it.
You
so,
can do it comfortably.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Have an
That's-
adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really,
I'm 61, man. See?
Yeah.
All this gray
61
hair.
today. Anyone watching? It is
Today.
Greg's
It's his birthday.
birthday.
Yeah.
Today.
Today.
He's sitting here
And-
with us.
Right.
So,
They're about to present me with
Yeah.
a $50,000 refund check.
Mhm. Right. We'll talk about that off screen after the
Yeah,
once
like,
we cut
wow.
though. Yeah.
Nice. Now everyone's going to ask,
That's
where's
how we
my,
got
where's
him
my
here.
refund
Right,
check?
refund check.
Yeah, 50 grand for our 400 views.
Right.
Nah, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Man, yeah.
that was great.
Any other questions? Anything stand out?
Not that I can think of. Yeah. Any other final words of advice for anyone getting
I would
into
just
it?
say, in all sincerity, when we started the project back September 24th, I guess I brought the boat around.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a 7-week project. I never expected to come in on schedule. We wanted to be able to take the boat out for Thanksgiving week, and I told all my family, I said, well, we may not be going anywhere, but we'll be together, and we'll do whatever. But you got it done, and also came in slightly under budget. And when I brought the boat around, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to be here probably the entire time to oversee the project. And after, 3 or 4 days, I'd show up and there was nothing for me to do. I mean, everything was firing on all cylinders, and really I was just kind of in the way because Frank felt like he needed to stop what he was doing and start giving me a briefing on what
Right.
all's going on, which I didn't want him to feel that way.
Sure.
And so I told my wife, I said, yeah, I don't need to be here. These guys got it. They know
That's
what
cool.
they know
Which
what
is
they're doing.
helpful. I mean, yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of backing off and letting the
Yeah.
team do their thing was,
Right.
super helpful. So,
Right.
no, I'm
Yeah.
So-
But not
glad
all
it worked
places
out that way.
inspire confidence. I mean, I've had a mechanic in my
Right.
car doing stuff before, and I'm like, I don't think I can leave.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what I mean.
There's
Yeah.
going to be all these
Right.
extra parts by the time he's done, kind of thing,
right, Right. So Frank would just
Yeah.
send me a little text at the end of the day and say, hey, here's where we are. And
Right.
That's cool.
everything just went, it just went like, for the size of this project, for everything, there just wasn't a hiccup. It just wasn't. There wasn't any. It was no stress. And
Well,
that's really shocking.
That's awesome.
It
Setting
just doesn't-
expectations.
It just
Right.
doesn't
Now
happen.
everyone who's watching's
Yeah.
like, all right,
Right.
man,
Yeah.
this is,
Right.
Yeah.
on time, under budget,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
not
it.
a headache.
It really does help having a design mind like Andre's coming up with the systems, and then a details guy like Frank executing the project. It really, really helps. And obviously, it not being our first rodeo is also helpful too.
Yeah,
but,
that was
but
pretty
really
clear, too.
Having
Yeah.
the minds there to make it happen is super helpful. I mean, I personally, I can't take a whole lot of credit for the electrical systems. I I know enough to be dangerous, but
Yeah.
I know the team that's making them happen. So
Yeah, well, it's like a village to raise a child. It takes, this village of all these different teams working together to install these things the right way. And it's cool watching all the teams
and all the
merge.
fabrication and everything. I
That's
mean,
right.
there's not one guy that knows it all. I mean, you've assembled
having
a group
someone like
of people.
Brian who can come up with stuff that is, like I tell everyone all the time, I come up with an idea for a design, and I know Brian's going to first of all, acknowledge it and then make it better, and it'll be significantly better than anything I came up with. And then guys like Nicholas who can do cabinetry that is just beautiful. So no, it's great having these people to lean on, from my side. Absolutely.
You have nothing to do. You just go.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He just
plays golf all
exactly.
day.
Exactly.
He's like the hardest working dude.
Can you imagine? Yeah. But really, like the whole idea, the idea of this whole podcast isn't to plug our company. We're very fortunate and blessed. We're very busy and we're booked up, but we really want to help educate cruisers. The whole idea here is that we can help people like you, hopefully, who's watching this, who's looking to buy a boat and can go through this experience. And imagine being someone like Greg, who is buying a boat and needs to know or come up with ideas and figure out what to do, and we want to help educate you. So Ryan is here dedicating crazy amounts of time and hours to bring that to you guys. So that's why we're doing the podcast. That's why the YouTube stuff is happening, and it's all about educating cruisers because we feel like there's a hole there. So again, it's not really about plugging the company here, and we appreciate it as very much as all the positive things you have to say, Greg. It's been a pleasure working with you. It really has. But we're here to educate you cruisers. So like, subscribe, ask us questions. We'll answer your questions on the podcast. We want to do that. We want to try spread knowledge and make you guys more informed boat owners. That's really the goal.
Yeah, so well said. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly the impetus and everything that we're doing here. And having boat owners like you be able to come on, the first one, that's sweet.
Great.
Yeah, really makes it nice to be able to see from
fun.
the other side. I'm a boat shopper myself, trying to get over where you're at someday of actually owning the boat. And so being able to see things fresh through your eyes and kind of what you're finding out along the way is really cool. So we have pretty good representation within the cruising industry as far as the boat shopper, the boat owner and purchaser, and now outfitter, and then the people who actually do the installs and the professional work. So something to glean for everybody. Hopefully in any interaction that you guys give, liking, commenting, if you'd consider subscribing, that goes such a long way for a small channel like ours. Check the link in the description below for some of the videos like the Leopard 50 video. Obviously the Leopard 42 video will be down there. You'll also see affiliate links that any clicks on those will, if you make a purchase and put it in your cart, doesn't cost you anything. It gets a few dollars back to us to keep this content flowing to you, and we really appreciate you watching, and you guys have fair winds and following seas out there. Boom.